But I remember we were sitting there and we were talking about drugs, and all of a sudden one of the other patients was like, "Oh yeah, I popped a Xanax last night and almost killed myself." And I'm sitting here and was like, What? What?" So when you're in a mental hospital, one of the things that you will always have to learn about is substance abuse. And I figured that this would be a good time to talk about substance abuse because I just accidentally traded a bunch of wine that I don't know what to do with. So, what is substance abuse? Substance abuse is the usage of any illicit drug like weed. There's a lot more that comes to mind. LSD, acid, shrooms. Uh, Mainly weed though. The one thing that a lot of people use was weed and alcohol. And when it comes to substance abuse groups, we're always taught how to. We are taught three things: refusal skills, harm reduction skills, and there was another one, and it's not coming to mind. And another thing, I forget what it is though. But basically, that's what they talk about. I remember this one time when I was in my third hospitalization, we were learning about drugs, and we did this sort of like Jeopardy game. It was a interesting thing because it had like uppers, downers, hallucinogens, and other categories. There were hard drugs, illegal drugs, legal drugs, and different variations. And I remember we were learning about was in particular LSD. We had a little conversation about LSD. I think it was maybe like 6 or 7 of us, and the nurse, and not nurse. I think she was a therapist. She was telling us about drugs because it was a substance abuse group. So we were learning about LSD, and we learned that a lot of people who are on antidepressants, aka all of us, have a very bad time with LSD. Now, why is that? Well, LSD is serotonergic. And according to the pamphlets that they gave us, serotonergic and SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which are a type of antidepressant, don't mix well. Essentially, your brain will be flooded with serotonin, and then you'll be out of serotonin for a long time, like a couple weeks to a month. And it is not fun. I know that other drugs can cause it. I know some of the ingredients in cough medicine, strangely enough, some ingredients in cough medicine causes you to have serotonin syndrome. I've never had serotonin syndrome, and by God, I'm so happy that I haven't, because the longest I've been depressed is a month, and that was horrible. But that was when my major depression was really affecting me, and when I had the when I had the diagnosis of psychotic symptoms, depression with psychotic symptoms, or psychotic tendencies. But yeah, substance abuse was interesting. In my first stay in a mental hospital, I did attend a substance abuse group, but this was before I even tried alcohol. No. It's before I allowed alcohol to take over my life, because I had tried it in the past. But I started messing with it a lot more as time went on, and that was not helpful at all because, like I said before, it's a downer. It's a depressant. It makes you sad. It slows down the neurological activity in your brain, makes you dizzy, messes with your senses, and it makes you generally a bit less in control. And I find that when it comes to those kinds of drugs, it's not exactly a good way to go. And that's a big part of harm reduction. It's learning about a drug while at the same time learning to be responsible and also refusing it. Because the other day I was offered LSD, and I'm sitting here looking at these tabs, and I'm like, why would I would die. I would literally kill myself if I had any of these. And that's not fun. Oh, dying? Yeah, no, it's not that fun. I've been there. But yeah, I remember we were also in the Jeopardy game, in the little Jeopardy game. I know I'm kind of going all over the place, but bear with me. In the little Jeopardy game that I talked about earlier in this video, there were some drugs that I've never heard of, like 5-MeO. Like I had no idea what that was, and Flocka, I had no idea what that was either. And then, so it wasn't really a Jeopardy game. It was more like a matching game. I don't know why I said Jeopardy. Probably Jeopardy because it looked like a Jeopardy game, but it was more like taking drugs. Like there were drug names on there weren't drugs on the paper. There the name of the drugs were on a little sheet of paper, and or a bunch of sheets of paper, and we had to categorize it by uppers, downers, hallucinogens, hard drugs, I think illicit drugs. I'm not sure, but anyway. So we were going through all of them, and I saw Flocka, and I said 5-MeO, and there was another one that apparently is a derivative of weed. But when I saw those, I was like, this seems kind of strange. One of the things that stood out to me the most was how familiar people in the hospital were familiar with benzodiazepines. Now, what are benzodiazepines? Benzodiazepines are depressants basically, and they help slow down your logical activity, they help fight against depression, and they can also get you high. And we were talking about things like Ativan, which is lorazepam, also known as lorazepam, and Xanax. I don't know the other name for Xanax. But I remember we were sitting there and we were talking about drugs, and all of a sudden one of the other patients was like, "Oh yeah, I popped a Xanax last night and almost killed myself." And I'm sitting here and was like, what? What? I find that when people go on Xanax, it's not a good time. There was a point in time where I was offered to be put on Xanax by my psychiatrist, and I think I did actually start taking it, now that I think about it. Because I was on Ativan, and then I ran out of Ativan because I'm a dumbass and spilled the bottle of pills on my lunch, and and I was out of Ativan, or lorazepam, as you might want to call it. So my psychiatrist was like, "Okay, we can put you on Xanax until your, not prescription, but until your insurance covers the new batch of lorazepam or Ativan." And I'm sitting here and I was like, I think I actually went on it. My memory's not that good. My memory's really not that good. But yeah, for an entire channel based upon my memory, trust me, the only things I remember are the interesting things. And yeah, substance abuse was interesting. I remember when we first went into the hospital, or when I first went into the hospital, I don't know why I said we. When I first went into the mental hospital, a bunch of the other patients were nicotine addicts. And we had a lot of groups, not a lot, we had some groups on nicotine addiction. And then I came out, I was like, I didn't come out, but I told everybody that, I don't really have very strong addictions. This was before my bulimia, and this was before I started misusing alcohol. So I was like, I don't really use a lot of negative coping skills. Like, the main thing I do is I go to the gym for way too long, like 3-4 hours. And that was the only addiction that I had at the time, which, granted, that was a pretty good addiction compared to all the bullshit that's gonna happen later in my life. But regardless, that was the worst thing that I've experienced. I mean, when it comes to substances, I've always had some alcohol every now and then when I was younger. I think I started stealing it in 6th grade, and I really started abusing it in high school, junior year, senior year, around that time. And yeah, my first hospitalization was when I was a junior. So when I came out of the hospital, I was supposed to have learned a lot of new skills, but I also liked alcohol, so I kept drinking it. And apparently I do a lot of things while intoxicated that aren't healthy, but that's to be expected, I guess. So, substance abuse. Thank you for watching this video. It got a little bit of a sad time at the end, but I hope you enjoyed. Substance abuse is my favorite group. Honestly, God, it's my favorite group. It's better than CBT, DBT, whatever, because it's interesting to learn about new drugs. There was, Flocka, Flocka, the zombie drug, that was an interesting one to learn about. 5-MeO DMT, that was also an interesting one to learn about. And just learning about the whole world of drugs and how drugs interact with other drugs. I found that interesting. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed watching. Oh, if you're in an emergency, I have emergency links down below. If you want to DM me, my links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Ahuiho, malapono.